I thought to discuss a little bit, let's say, general level the role of universities, the changing role of universities, and then I give some picks from what they're doing in this UL project in Finland. Maybe there's some time to questions and discussion as well. Here some links to different ongoing issues in our department and network. Of course, urbedu.live gradually will make that project site active. Our university is changing name, so will be called Tampere University, not technology anymore, from next January. Tuni.fi, and then different collaborations. This spin unit, it's an international network which is quite relevant for the topic of social mapping. We are doing a lot of quite advanced work with different even big data type of data sets, social media, advanced urban analysis, developing new algorithms to analyze urban space and process and so forth. So maybe some of you can check some of those. But to the topic, basically, as said, our university will look like this. Technology and humanistic universities are joining formally from January. I just took last night a screenshot. That's how somebody wants us to look like. There's always this question of nature, sitting on the lake. I don't know why, but can't help. That's our institutional context with quite many questions, even problems. But it's still interesting, of course, that there is a bigger scale and a bit new direction to the university. The UL project works in these four countries: Finland, Great Britain, Slovenia, and Romania, with general aim of opening up the processes of producing urban space. We are interested in marginal and shrinking communities, something we might call countercurrents of global urbanization, finding interesting new seeds that might grow to new practices and new solutions for future urban society. And very, very strongly, we are interested in empowering individuals, empowering groups, building new capabilities, and using university as a vehicle, as a tool in this kind of urban processes for something new and something better. Definitely the context here in Romania and Bucharest is very interesting. Thanks for Gruia, we had really great walks yesterday and also the day before. We are getting to understand something of the quite rich and complex situation here as well. Okay, university. Some classic origins. In Latin, it refers to unity or community of teachers and students. It's one, unum, one. But at the same time, of course, universities are about diversity. There is diversity of opinion, there is diversity of disciplines, different faculties, and so forth. In Finland, Ilkka Niiniluoto, one of them known philosophers who became Chancellor of Helsinki University in 1990s, he has been talking about unity of differences as the core of university. And I think this is very, very important to somehow acknowledge that it's one but not one. There is kind of complexity of university. And in many ways, this diversity, different opinions, debate, even conflict at sometimes is very central to the kind of genes of the institution that we call university. Universities are or should be autonomous in managing the content, in the sense of freedom of research, freedom of expression, and of course also economically. I'm very happy, by the way, to hear that here there is a University of Architecture and Urbanism. Locally in our situation, we are struggling for this kind of how we can actually express, because we are part of a bigger university, so how we can actually be showing them the profile of architecture. I also do enjoy your building, this kind of concrete structuralism with this classical, it's nice, very nice physical setting here too. Some milestones of universities, probably the earliest real one was in Bologna, Alma Mater Studio Room, almost 1,000 years ago. Also the notion of academic freedom comes from the Italian context through law Constitutio Habita that year, 1158. But of course there is also other views. I don't discuss China. I'm sure if we would have somebody from China, there would be even older examples. But in Europe, of course, the Arab process and the fact that Arabic culture sustained the classical heritage of Greece and Rome in the centuries that was pre-Middle Ages for Europe. So basically, in Fez, in Morocco, there is Islamic University Al-Harane from 9th century. That is at the moment thought to be maybe the oldest still operating university in the broadly European sphere. Okay, early Middle Ages in France and Britain. Old universities, obviously, I learned yesterday that France is a very important reference point for Romania, so maybe Sorbonne or something else could be interesting. In the Nordic countries, Sweden had a imperial moment in 17th century, and Swedes were founding universities in Finland. So Turku got the first university in 1640. Lund some years earlier in the Skåne, it used to be Denmark but became part of Sweden, and also in Tartu in Estonia. I think it's 1645, some years later than Turku. There was a state-led process to establish university as institution. I think it's quite interesting. It tells a lot about the importance of university. The Swedish imperial state at the time really used university almost as the main tool next to military to build the state, build new kind of capabilities, understanding, and so forth. Tatiana, where are you? Congratulations. You are now appointed in the oldest Institute of Technology in Germany. Yes, from 1745. Yes, Collegium Carolinum. Congratulations. I will say something other nice things about Germany very soon, believe it or not. So there is a long history of that institution, and of course worth mentioning Bauhaus, this short moment, but very influential regarding architecture and also urbanism, an idea that in this modern era, in the moment of industrial city and industrial society, it's a good idea to combine different arts and create a societally important, societally even radical educational and again capabilities institution that does something at the time in the industrial society, makes it better, does something human, something artistic, humanistic in the world of big scale production of goods, big scale production of urban space, and of course very radical systemic change of society at the time. And basically that is with my question for today, and also for our whole project. Now, 100 years later, we are again in the middle of a systemic change. Lefebvre calls that systemic change from industrial to urban society. And I think we should really seriously discuss what is the role of a university, what is the role of education in that systemic change? Where are the new seeds of new practices that are resource efficient, ecological, equal, addressing different very, very big challenges we are facing right now. Good. I will do this very quickly, but basically there are 4 models of university in European context. British, about civilized man and professional skills, an idea that a university is very integrated with society. It's about communication. Even the British always envy that in British politics you can debate. Not in Finland, there's no debate. In Britain there's debate, so there is some kind of education in that direction, communication, rhetoric, and so forth. With canoeing and sports, of course. The German Humboldt, amazing guy, was a world hero of science in early 19th century, spent years in Venezuela. He found 2,000 new species for the biology books in a situation when biology knew only 6,000 species. It's amazing. Anyway, an idea that university is really about freedom. Freedom of research, freedom of teaching, freedom of actually any action. And I think quite much of what we are doing in UL project is in some sense linked to the German ideal of Humboldt University. Teaching and research, an idea that it's free, and teaching comes from new ideas. It's not some kind of canon, but novelty. And idea that education, being an educated person, is more important than professional skills. This picture is from Berlin, from the new library. And then the French model, which to me seems a bit maybe more distant, it's about the elite. It's a university as part of state, university as institution that educates people for political power and government. This is from Sorbonne, old image and new image. Could be Macron, it's not Macron, but could be Macron speaking to a elite group of students. You couldn't get this kind of picture from Finland, for example. No way. This situation doesn't exist. But in France, it does exist. Small group, nice dress. Yeah. We are having not so many t-shirts, as the director said, but maybe some. Anyway, yeah. So there is something. And then, of course, Europeans went to other continent, and then there's the North American model college, maybe a mixture of them continental models. Again, very close links between university and society. Basic applied institutions, basic applied science in same institutions. We have been in Tampere in the situation of redefining our curriculum, redefining our profile. We have been thinking these different models, and that's our, let's say, core idea at the moment. Of course, art and science, creativity, and science understood as critical thought, not as natural sciences, but as critical Habermasian critical interest of knowledge, and then making it happen, putting that in practice in cities, in societies, in communities, and maybe this image tells something of that. So this architecture and urban planning, it means some kind of application, but with that background, with maybe Bauhausian / Humboldtian background, and making it happen. That's how we see the key elements of architectural and urbanistic curriculum at the moment. what can be learned from this excursion to history? Maybe the key, at least to me, is this link between research and teaching. It should be about new ideas developed, tested, and put in practice. So university is really an agent of change. It's not an institution that is dusty, but it's active. Social and societal actor, improving knowledge base, upgrading processes, building also new imaginaries, new visions for different audiences, different communities. Quite important, and of course focal point for our project, Urban Education Live, is this one-to-one presence, going in places, talking to people, making things in real, avoiding abstractions, and concretely students and citizens co-learning. I think it's very, very important that we are not sitting in our own spaces, but we really do things together. Only that way, actually both benefit, both students and the different audiences benefit. A question maybe for today, but at least in Finland, certainly through this organic process and being involved with municipalities, with cities, with different groups, also with companies in some cases, it is possible to gain some political power for the better. I don't say that university would be big in that sense, but some roles. What has happened to us is that we are now quite closely related to national processes for example, writing new law on land use and planning and so forth. These kind of things can happen, depending case by case, nation by nation, different. And then other learning point is that it's important also to realize that there are other very, very structural institutions in society, education, politics, government, media, for example, and university should influence also the institutions, not only individuals. Good. Some, I said, picks from our project in Finland. We have been working in Salo. It's a small town, a shrinking city. It's famous because Nokia, the telecoms giant, in a certain way originates from Salo, and for a long time Salo had the biggest factory of Nokia. Basically everybody in the city was employed by Nokia at some point of time, and then it collapsed. So the factory was closed, and Nokia collapsed completely, which of course meant that the city of Salo collapsed. It's a global shrinking city in that sense. And through the action of Jens Brandt, who is not able to be with us today, we have been having very interesting process since already more than a year, where we joined local high school, an institution. It's very big for a small town, very well organized, well-resourced, good high school. And Jens had an ability to start to work with their art class. So it's a very, very small starting point, but a real collaboration. He was doing different urban experiments with the art class of the high school, starting from the group itself on the lower corner, teaching what it means to experience, how your feelings in urban space change, things like that. Then he invited students to go out to the city, to tweet actually about different things, about places that are interesting, places that are problematic, about their visions and imaginations. There was a digital element, some kind of map, maybe social map of them expressions and feelings of students, to start to draw a different picture of that place. Then there was linkage to different local groups, different NGOs and alternative groups and spaces. There is one picture from a place called Ihme ja Kumma, a low threshold space, basically a restaurant run by disabled people. How is that working? How is that funded? What kind of ideas there are? And then students developed small ideas what could happen in Salo, what they would like to, what they would like to see happening, but also in the sense of how it could be realized. So basically that was an effort to teach the high school students, young citizens of Salo between 16 and 18 years, to teach, okay, how actually you can change, how you can make a difference. And that was quite successful. And from that, we a bit surprisingly came to next phase, which is a question of this academic year, that we are entitled to rewrite the whole curriculum of the high school. It's about 700 students, and our project is actually rewriting the whole curriculum. So we go from geography to biology to all topics, not mathematics, but that will stay. But we can rewrite, and there is a quite broad collaboration with the high school and then with the city at large. So we are then joining in how they develop their public space, how they program their digital footprint, and so forth. So it from very small start, it grew to quite big, and that's exactly a learning point for our project, that always you can start from something small, almost seems insignificant, but in certain context, that crack, we discussed yesterday, that crack can grow to something quite big. And I think in Salo, we are in an interesting path in that regard. We can influence the future generations, we can influence the curriculum, we can influence city planning and politics quite much. There is also a national dimension to it. There is a national program to link exactly high schools to universities. So we are adopting this high school in the shrinking city to the new Tampere University, and there will be a lot of exchange. There are other examples in Finland, but I will not go to them. Play Salo, how to make that small town different. Other point is University Field Unit. We proposed an idea for the new Tampere University administration about taking seriously those opportunities that are coming in this project, and basically saying that this new Tampere University should take an active role, start to use cities as living laboratories for both social and technical innovation, pay attention to the urban dynamic of few places growing, many places shrinking actually. And of course that's a global question. We are now developing that in Europe, in Latin America as well. Find ways to improve life and vitality of urban places, and then find both new national role and new ways to rethink the curriculum through this kind of mixed hybrid collaboration with municipalities, with cities, with the surrounding society. And then there is quite an interesting case in Tampere itself. There is a new district called HIEDANRANTA. It's a big development for that city. So Tampere is half of the sector 3 of Bucharest. It's 250,000 people, whole city, small. This is a new district for 25,000 new people and jobs, so there's some growth in that context. And quite a well-programmed project by the city to make a very multifunctional hybrid space linked to a new tram line, good integration of land use and transport to discuss that topic. But especially interesting because they have started with temporary appropriation. So already some years now, there is a lot of different temporary uses, events, but also new startup companies and so forth. So forth in that space, which is industrial, a former paper mill. There is already a interesting growing community with many kinds of innovations, and the university is starting a new campus there. So basically, university starts from a small start, just one space, but wants to build a new presence as an actor in this process to create a new neighborhood. And so it's basically fourth campus for Tampere University. And of course, our group, our process will be a player in that. I'm just right now in the process of writing to the new rector and trying to put those ideas in concrete plan and agreement. But basically, an idea that university can really be part of this kind of process to support innovation, to facilitate new connections, and find an active social role in the emerging urban society. Thanks.
So, are there questions?
Richard Lee from Just Space London. Given the theme of today, universities and communities, I had a quick comment on I think your opening slide, where you defined the unity of the university. And I think the slide said the unity of teachers and students. So I'm questioning why this is not, at the very least, teachers, students, and communities. Why? And certainly in the English context, which is the only one I know, we have what are called public charters, which establish the universities, and a number of these refer to the purpose of the university as providing education for the people and a service for the community. And this historical memory seems to be lost. And maybe today we are having to rediscover something that was there at the start.
Yes, thanks. Of course, that's our topic. In the slide, it was just historic. 2,000 years ago, somebody thought that it's teachers and students, and now we are discussing it with more broad scope. It's very important, and of course, it's central for our project. But I think it's also important to remember that universities have a kind of non-local networked role. So there is something general, and of course that's big debate for all of us to what extent. But it's not only the locality. There is a general knowledge. There is a general ethics, and so forth as well.
Yeah, I have a quick question about the curriculums that you're saying that you're going to change in your university or our departments. I want to know how deep will these changes go, because you mentioned that the changes will be really deep in terms of also changing the curriculums of natural sciences and other, let's say, curriculums which are associated to the one of spatial sciences, I would say. So the question is, aren't you afraid that while changing the curriculum, you can do also some harm, some bad, and you have to retroactively change back again, because these are quite sensitive things, and I want to know more about the process, how you will do it, and how it's possible to implement it how long will the process go? Will it go for a few years? Will the changes be implemented quickly? I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, it's slow. So we started this change at least 3 or if not 4 years ago, and it's still not completely ready. So it takes time for sure. First of all, it's much discussion, and certainly there is very much inertia. So we cannot and we don't want to change everything. That's for sure. There are many things. We of course we value our own tradition. We value certain aspects of the Finnish architectural curriculum, focus on design, integration of different disciplines. So, for example, planning and architecture are in one curriculum. We want to keep it like that, and so forth. There is quite much continuity. Other element which is important is the European Union Directive on Architectural Education. So that sets some kind of general frame to what we can do. Especially, we have to keep quite much design education. That's basically the EU directive point. 50% of the curriculum should be actually different design, architectural, urban landscape design subjects. So there is many framings, but in that context of continuity and this broader frame of what architectural education can be, we want to actually discuss the learning targets. So it's more on the level of learning targets, what we expect that students learn and how we express those learning targets for ourselves and for students. That's actually the level where more change is happening. We try to be more precise and also more creative in what these different courses and topics actually bring. We are having a little bit similar structure. I mean, the director mentioned these different subjects or departments of architecture education. Yes, history, theory, housing, public building, urban planning, and so forth. Those, in some sense, do continue, but we will reorganize them. We will do new collaborations between those and so forth.
Hello, Vladimir Rus, Chisinau, Albrecht Association. I'm interested in your wish to make university a political actor or have a stronger political role in society. So my comment is, if you want to be if you want to influence politics, you have to be a political actor. How do you want to become one, or what way do you see becoming university a political actor besides its other functions it has?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think university as such can be political actor. It is diverse, and there is no one voice in the sense of being directly part of politics. If you understand politics as the process of creating opinions, creating different alternatives, and then making decisions on a democratic base. That is, of course, other process. But what I meant is that that university, through being involved in community, being involved in real change, can gain voice and can find ways to express, for example, new visions, new imaginaries of future that are maybe more interesting or in some sense better, more equal, for example, more sustainable than other imaginaries, other visions that are part of the public debate. So what I meant is that point one, you can go to public debate, and in some cases, and that's of course then different in different countries, systems work differently. It is possible to be much more actively involved in different political processes as an expert. And for me, the example is this law reform. It's one of the key laws, the law of land use and planning. I think in some ways, similar law or laws are very central in every country. And for us, it's I think very interesting that we can be directly involved in writing new law, actually, as an expert, but as an expert based on this social process, not only based on that somebody thinks that we know, but already based on a public role, actually. So I think those two visions and expert role in processes that are political in the sense that they do shape society.